What's going on, guys? Welcome to or welcome back to the channel. My name is Isaac, aka The Baddest, and about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I did a video where I ranked the main Five Nights at Freddy's games from worst to best. And honestly, my opinions on that ranking change very frequently. I would say on a yearly basis, my favorite to least favorite FNAF game changes. So that's why I'm doing an updated version right now, because I don't agree with my list from last year whatsoever. I agree with some things, I disagree with some things. I don't know why I'm explaining this. You'll watch the video, hopefully. But, just gonna get some things out of the way. 1. Spin-offs, I'm not gonna include in this game. Troll games, the fighting game, FNAF World, I don't deem those as main Five Nights at Freddy's games. I don't think those count, and I don't think, because of how different they are, it really makes sense to put them in a list with the main games. So yeah, spin-offs are not on the list. And also, Help Wanted will not be on this list. I have a video, I have a schedule for my uploads of the next little while, and I do plan on making a full video on Help Wanted. It is both the top of the list and the bottom of the list. I think Help Wanted is the best and worst Five Nights at Freddy's game. I love it so much and I hate it so much. So yeah, Help Wanted, it's great. It also sucks, but it's also great, but it also sucks. I'm gonna make a full video on that one, so I'm just not gonna put it on this list. Without further ado, let's get into the list. Starting off at the very bottom, it almost feels mean to do this kind of video because Five Nights at Freddy's 3 has been bullied relentlessly for almost 7 years. For the record, I don't dislike Five Nights 3. It's my least favorite, hence it being at the bottom of the list, but I don't dislike it. The minigames and lore reveals of this game are my favorite part of it, by far. The Happiest Day minigame is one of my favorite moments of the entire series. Not to mention the good ending with the emotional music and the way the heads directly line up with the graves in Pizzeria Simulator. I'm really glad this wasn't the last FNAF game, but its ending is really fantastic. My problems with the game are the mechanics, the game design, and also the designs of the Phantom animatronics. Since this is my least favorite, it's the one I go back to play the absolute least. But since I was writing this video, I played all of the games, just in my free time, and Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is genuinely worse than I remember. The use of audio is actually a decent concept, and it was used very well in Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night, but they just weren't implemented into Five Nights at Freddy's 3 in a really good way, in my opinion. In the first two Five Nights games, first of all, it's very hectic, and you have a lot going on, and you have a lot to keep track of. In Five Nights at Freddy's 3, it's downgraded to one animatronic that you use one mechanic to go against. It's just very boring. It's not as easy as I remember it being. It's still not hard, but I remember last year saying that it was really easy. It's not as easy as I remember it being, or maybe that's because I just don't play it as much. But it's still boring. Like, it's really, really boring. It feels tedious, and I just genuinely don't find it fun. And again, I don't really care so much for most of the models. Springtrap is actually one of my favorite models ever. It looks incredible, but all the Phantoms are really ugly, and although they fit the aesthetic of the rest of the game, they're weirdly dark and don't have any scary qualities. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is okay. It really isn't that bad, and it's an enjoyable experience, but out of every game in the series, it's the experience that I revisit the least, and it is the one I would want to revisit the least. Next, we have Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. I know people love Sister Location, but it was just never one of my favorites. Don't get me wrong, this game is incredible in so many ways. It might be low on the overall list, but that doesn't mean I don't love this game. The introduction of voice acting and being slightly more direct with the characters and story was so amazing and exciting given how new it was at the time. The opening alone with the revealing of William Afton is so thrilling to experience for the first time. I love the way Baby interacts with the player, and how you're never fully sure of what their intention is, but you don't really have a choice but to trust them. This game also has a great sense of humor. It's really cool how this game was able to blend comedy and horror in, the perfect way. This game has some genuinely scary moments, even compared to some of the scariest moments of the series. The destruction of Ballora on Night 4 and the way you have to keep the door closed to avoid Biddy Bab when hiding under the desk are genuinely frightening moments because the tension builds. Sister Location also has some of the best jump scares in the series, and that's because it also has some of the best models in the series. The main reason I don't love this entry as much as others is I just don't really care for the gameplay. I really appreciate the variety and the experimental approach, but the game itself as a game isn't really that fun. I've always seen Sister Location as more of an experience than an actual game because everything about it is fantastic except for the actual gameplay. Again, I appreciate the variety and the lack of repetitiveness, but I just don't really find it as fun as a game. But seriously, don't get this twisted. Sister Location is absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely one that I will revisit. I just personally enjoy the mechanics of other entries more. If you care more about the stories and characters, Sister Location is definitely the FNAF game for you. This seems to be a bit of an unpopular placement. I think most people don't like Ultimate Custom Night as much as I do. Points definitely get taken away because of the lack of story, secrets, and overall intrigue, but I'm just genuinely so impressed by how well crafted the mechanics are. I think people don't really understand how incredible this game is in terms of balancing and efficiency. There are 50 characters and a few more secret ones, and they all have a reasonable role. There are so many mechanics, which is difficult and confusing, but it's all possible to master, and that's such a thrilling experience as someone that's played these games for years. I love the challenge. Trying to be able to pay attention to each and every aspect of the game and keeping track of every challenge is such a rush for me. The best I've done in the game is 50-10 mode. I don't think I'll ever be able to beat 50-20, but I'm still pretty proud of what I've been able to achieve. This next one I was way too harsh on in my original ranking. I have no idea what could have driven me to put this below FNAF 3. You get so much playtime out of Pizzeria Simulator because there are so many different endings. Each ending gives you a certificate, and there are a total of 6 certificates to get. Trying to get them all and figuring out the best strategies to do so is really fun. It is also pretty challenging. I would say it's one of the hardest games in the series. Having to listen closely for 4 different animatronics takes a lot of focus. There's also a major difference between this game and all the others. There's no time limit. It's not like you have to do some sort of repeated pattern until 6 AM. You need to do it in whatever time it takes. It all depends on you and what the AI does. It's super stressful. This game is also much scarier than people make it out to be. Pizzeria Simulator has the best jump scare sound effect in the entire series. It is really frightening. Some of the models aren't super charming. Scrap Trap's head doesn't match Springtrap's at all, and Baby's new look just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. However, I will say, Lefty is hilarious and a legitimately genius concept, and the mediocre melodies do become pretty hilarious in Custom Night. And of course, Pizzeria Simulator is really noteworthy for its lore reveals. The 3 big minigames in Pizzeria Simulator are absolutely mind-boggling and so fascinating. My favorite is easily Security Puppet. It's genuinely fantastic. The ending is also the best of any FNAF game, and I will happily die on that hill if I have to. It's horrifying, it's satisfying, it's fascinating, it's perfect. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator is so charming and horribly underrated, and I'm guilty of that myself. I've really grown to love and respect this game. There is a lot to say about FNAF 4. We don't even have enough time to cover everything. This game is actually really fun. It's crazy how well it holds up to this day. The use of audio as a mechanic is a really interesting concept, and it requires you to pay really close attention to your actions and what the game is presenting to you. You have to be very careful. Unlike most of the games of this series, where you have to act really fast and be really precise with your actions, in FNAF 4 you have to be very slow and methodical because acting too quickly will likely end in your death. That doesn't mean you can stand around and do nothing though. If you don't act, you die, but you have to make sure that you know what you're doing, and that usually means waiting for a second of clarity. The minigames and storytelling is also really important, but unfortunately it's kind of hard to talk about. Five Nights 4 is one of, if not, the most confusing entry in the series. There are a lot of details that have significance, but we don't really know what that significance is. The characters have very distinct designs. There are small details in multiple minigames that don't affect the moment at all, and there are lines that have become so infamous for being so confusing. In a way, that's part of the reason I like it. Scott himself has said that that's something he believes to be special about this game. Most of the games were picked apart pretty quickly, but the secrets hidden within FNAF 4 have yet to be given definitive explanations. I need to take a moment to talk about the models in this game. The Nightmare animatronics are so horrific and disturbing, and I absolutely love their designs. Scott said that models usually took a few days to make, but these ones took around 2 weeks each, because the tears in their bodies and all the details were done manually. similarly to Springtrap, which again is another one of my favorites. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is fun, it's fascinating to experience and discuss, and it's absolutely horrifying. That's why it's in my top 3. Now, what is there to say that hasn't been said about the first Five Nights at Freddy's? It's not only the game that started up this massive franchise, it's also a really fantastic indie horror game, even as a standalone. Although my opinions on the overall ranking changes, the top 2 haven't changed in 7 years. There's something about the original FNAF that is just simply terrifying. The combination of white noise and creepy sounds with the dark, disturbing atmosphere. The designs of the animatronics are weirdly realistic, even if they're not as high quality as the newer ones. Everything in the first Five Nights was just put together in such a perfect way to create a thrilling experience. The simple mechanics are really clean. It's not necessarily hard to be good at this game, but it takes quite a bit to master it. The precise movements that it takes to keep Freddy out of the room and Foxy in the cove at the same time in the last 3 nights is pretty challenging without practice. It's also hard to not feel nostalgic when you think about the mystery of this game. We hear about the Bite of 87 for the first time, and small details like the newspapers on the wall change at random to reveal the disturbing past of this pizzeria. It was so new at the time, and it was absolutely perfect at intriguing the audience. Five Nights at Freddy's was not only a fantastic first game, but it was legitimately brilliantly crafted and was an amazing horror experience. However, there is one that still exceeds it. I don't think any FNAF game could ever top Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I don't know if it's possible. The brilliance of this game is what took FNAF from being a phase on YouTube to being a real horror franchise with so much potential. The upgrade in gameplay was incredible. The way you had to do different things to stop different animatronics was so interesting, and it made the game so much more challenging because you had to utilize your mask, flashlight, and cameras, but none could be done at the same time. You couldn't keep your mask on for too long because you had to wind up the music box and use your flashlight on Foxy. When you wound up the music box, you were giving the other animatronics a chance to enter the room, so you have to remember to put your mask on immediately if someone's there. And the mask can't be used on Foxy, so if you kept it on for too long without checking the hallway, he gets you. Once you get into the later nights, you have to act fast and keep up the pace to survive. It's pretty challenging, but thrilling when you get the hang of it. There are also some clean designs in this game. Not all of them are perfect, mainly because the toy animatronics aren't scary in the slightest, but they still look nice. The withered animatronics, on the other hand, are pretty horrifying. I'm not sure if they're on par with the originals because they lack the realistic look to some degree, but they're still great. And the increase in intrigue is truly phenomenal. It went from mentioning the Bite of 87 and showing some small Easter eggs about missing children, to showing minigames about the puppet giving gifts to dead kids, as well as the actual death of the puppet. FNAF 2 did such an excellent job at adding on to the original story, and it totally set the stage for what was to come afterwards. Nothing is perfect, sure, but Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is pretty damn close. If this game ever gets topped, that game will be one of my favorite things to ever exist. I have a feeling it'll be impossible. And that right there is my ranking of Five Nights at Freddy's 1 to 7. Again, spin-offs were left out, and Help Wanted will have its own dedicated video. I have so much to say about that. I have so much good, so much bad, so much love, so much hate for Help Wanted. So expect a full video on that at some point. I'm not going to give a date because I don't know, but that video will be happening, and I have so much to say about it. So yeah, that is all I have to say for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't get too mad at me if you hate that I put sister location at the bottom or something like that. I just have certain preferences. This is a video about my opinion on a horror gaming franchise. It's not all that serious. Don't dox me or threaten to kill me. But in all seriousness, thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for the support on the channel recently. It's been a pretty hectic couple months, and this channel is something that is always on my mind because it's something that I truly care about. So thank you guys so much for all the support and really making this what I couldn't do on my own. Anyway, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.